You're listening to the Downeast Mike podcast, the quirky little podcast from Maine. And now, your host, Downeast Mike.
Dee-dee-dee-dee. Good morning, everybody. This is Downeast Mike of the world-famous Downeast Mike podcast, episode number 136, news and commentary for Sunday, July 12th, 2026. We are coming to you live from Downeast Maine. Maybe not fully live, but at least live in our mind. And it's like the old song, "Oh Lord, our intentions are good." Our motto here on the Downeast Mike podcast is, some of this is whimsy, some of it's true, and the interpretation of it all is entirely up to you. Downeast Mike podcast contains no mean words, just wholesome goodness from Downeast Maine. In today's episode, you can buy an NBA franchise for $5 million. And that was in 1973, an interesting story. A Maine man does it the hard way in 1973. That's a good story. We have old recipe roundup, some great recipes. You're going to love those. And a story about Clam flat shootings from 1973 and so much more on the Downeast Mike podcast. Let's start off with a birthday, an upcoming birthday actually for tomorrow. Huck's daughter, his birthday is tomorrow. We won't give a name because it's private. But happy birthday, and we hope you have a great birthday and a great many happy birthdays after this one. Tomorrow will be a good day for a birthday, nice and sunny. Not the weekend, but let's look at that sale of the Boston Celtics for $5.1 million, and it was okayed by the NBA. At the same time, the board of governors, the NBA, they rejected a $5 million bid by a 9-man group from Milwaukee and Chicago, trying to purchase the Chicago Bulls. You could buy an NBA team cheaper then than for what it cost to pay one player's salary for a game today. The owner is 46. He's a part owner of the New England Whalers of the World Hockey Association, and he diverted his interest in the Trailblazers to buy the Celtics. They'll continue to play in the Boston Garden, where they have a year-to-year lease, and Arnold Red Auerbach will remain as the club's president and general manager. And that was back when he could smoke a cigar in the stadium. After he lit up the cigar when he could see that a win was in the books, and they would. And at that point, the game was all over. He'd light the cigar, and they'd have a picture of him. We had a letter here. This is Abigail, Dear Abby letter, and we thought this was interesting. The names are fictitious, but I am telling it like it is. My name is Debbie. I have been dating a fellow named John. I mentioned to John that Linda, a good friend of mine, is fantastically well put together. John calls Linda and asks her for a date. Linda accepts. She then tells Carol, who is also a friend of mine, about her date with John. Carol tells me. Naturally, I am humiliated and angry. I contend that when John called Linda, she should have refused him immediately, saying she and I were good friends, and then hung up the phone. That's what I would have done. Furthermore, Linda shouldn't have told Carol or anyone else about her date with John because it made me look like a fool. My friends contend that everything worked but for the best, and I am lucky to have found out that John was bad news. Abby, what is your opinion? That's from Debbie, writing to Dear Abby in 1973. And Abby says, your friends are right, Debbie, but there are several lessons to be learned here. 1, never mention to a boyfriend that another girl is fantastically well put together. He may not be able to resist the challenge to take her apart. That's kind of rough. 2, Dear Abby says, if a man is interesting, few girls, out of loyalty to a girlfriend, will pass up a chance to date him. 3, your friend Linda talks too much. for, so does Carol. That was advice that you could get from the newspaper in 1973. Maybe not as timely a turnaround as what you would get today, but you could nonetheless get advice that way. Let's go to our story about the Maine man who did it the hard way. The headline is, "He did it the hard way but made his point." And it starts off with, "It stepped out of the shop and saw a man with shoulders about so big, with a long black beard and carrying this big wrench. He said, 'Follow me, and I'll show you what I'm going to do.' And he showed me." He smashes a car window. This is what he does. The witness then told 3rd District Court Judge F. Davis Clark, they always have like an initial somewhere, it makes their name more important. He told F. Davis Clark that Leon Woodbury raised his wrench and swung it at the rear window of his car with the anticipated result. Woodbury was the owner of Bike Land on Hancock Street in Bangor, and an avid cyclist himself, was on trial Tuesday afternoon on a charge of willfully damaging property. Bangor police allege that he broke out the window of Horace Labrise of Mount Hope Avenue, broke out the window of the car after he jotted down Labrise's license plate number as a result of an alleged accident on June 27th. There's a lot to unpack here. Labrise operates Builder Supply on Mount Hope Avenue and spoke in the high voice usually needed to overcome the noise of the power equipment in his shop. So he's slightly deaf after running all the grinders and such. Labrise said he got only as far as the words, "Why, you?" And then he said he noticed that Woodbury was still holding his wrench in the air. Labrise confirmed that his daughter had been driving the car earlier in the day. Taking the stand in his own defense, Woodbury said that on June 27th, he's riding his bicycle back to his shop after appearing as a witness in a bicycle theft case in the 3rd District Court. As he was crossing Hancock Street, he related, a car driven by a young woman screeched by him, and he collided with the rear of the car. He was hurt, but not injured, he told the court. The soft-spoken but burly cyclist said he then went to the police department with the registration number and was told to go to the traffic division. Woodbury told Assistant County Attorney Thomas Briggs that he didn't make much headway there. They said something like, "You're still walking," he stated. "A bicyclist has no protection of the law in Bangor," Woodbury affirmed. He said he asked the officer, "What do I have to do to get you people to pay attention? Go up and break out a car window?" Woodbury then related much the same details as recounted by Labrise. He said that he picked the smallest, most inexpensive window, so he's a very discriminating criminal, and he smashed it. Labrise was startled and somewhat ferocious. He just didn't know what it was all about. Woodbury said he fully realized beforehand that he would have to pay for the broken window as well as the attorney fees. "It's not the first time I've been hit by a car in Bangor," he stated. "It's time that people wake up to the fact that something must be done about bicycle safety." During final arguments, Assistant County Attorney Briggs said he had to sympathize with Woodbury if his facts were correct, but could not condone his action. A defense attorney argued that Woodbury turned to his government and was rebuffed, and then tried what Zindians said as self-help. Judge Clark, who was not always successful in repressing smiles during the hearing, said he agreed with Briggs' position and fined Woodbury $10. He said he, too, sympathized with Woodbury, said he had probably acted under mixed feelings of disgust, frustration, and discouragement. Judge Clark said he trusted that the police department would look into the matter of protecting bicyclists to see what can be done. He told Woodbury that if another wrench went through a window and Woodbury was at the end of it, the court would not be as lenient again. So that was riding a bicycle in Bangor in 1973. You'd want to stay out of that whole mess. Here's a kind of a wholesome, good old-fashioned car accident. We don't have accidents like this anymore. They're usually much more traumatic. This was in 1973. On Sunday, July 8th, there was a 3-car accident at Route 1 in Noblesboro at the intersection of East Neck Road. At 2:30 p.m., Julie Johnston, 24, of Nobleboro, while traveling north, stopped to turn left on the East Neck Road in her 1973 Plymouth Duster. Can't you picture that? I bet that was a tan car, too. Gary Bordis, 21, of Lincolnville, was following her, and he came to a stop. Ray Claxton, 39, of Woburn, Mass., was following too close, and his 68 Ford station wagon hit Bordis's 1970 Pontiac. Bordis's car then hit Mrs. Johnston's car. Their combined damage was approximately $1,275. The investigating officer was Trooper Robert Sanborn, otherwise known as Bob. Stephen Turner, 21, of Montjoy, that was that accident, but just the way that happened, the chain reaction, nobody was really hurt. It would have been great to be a bystander. That was like a stock car accident. Stephen Turner, 21, of Montjoy Street in Portland and South Bristol, dual residency. He was traveling on Route 130 just below Bristol Mills when he had a blowout. He lost control and struck several guideposts. The accident occurred at 12:15 a.m. on Monday, July 9th. His 1964 Rambler station wagon sustained approximately $700 damage, in other words, all that it was worth. These are the kinds of accidents we don't have today. They're slow speed accidents, I guess. We should do our recipe roundup. This is this first recipe here. Now, you can make note of this one. It's for strawberry ice cream. And a staggering list of ingredients: 5 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of vanilla, the good stuff, 1 quart heavy cream, 1 cup all-purpose cream, 2 quarts of fresh strawberries, a half a cup of sugar, 1 cup or more of milk. Now, this is making strawberry ice cream 1973. Wash, hull, and crush the strawberries. Add half a cup of sugar. Allow to stand for 30 minutes. Beat the eggs. Add 2 cups of sugar and mix well. Starting to get kind of heavy here. But this is where we add in the heavy cream, all-purpose cream, in the milk. Stir in the crushed and sweetened berries, and if necessary, to fill the freezer can to 3/4 full, add more milk or all-purpose cream, add vanilla and salt, freeze until firm, remove the dasher, and stir the frozen mixture down. Cover the can with wax paper, cover and put a plug in the hole in the cover, top with a cup, add more ice, and allow the stand to ripen. Now, I'm sure that's pretty tasty strawberry ice cream, but I think it's kind of on the heavy side of the 5 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, cup of all-purpose cream, and a heavy cream. We had another one for strawberry pie. This was from 73 as well. This one came out of New Harbor, Maine. 1 quart of strawberries, a 1/4 cup of sugar. See right there, it's already more gentle. 2.5, this is pie though, 2.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, half a teaspoon of salt, half a cup of cold water, 3/4 of a cup of sugar. We're getting to the good thing here. 1 tablespoon of red food coloring, and whipped cream topping 1 baked pie shell. Arrange the full quart of strawberries in the baked pie shell, which will be heaping. There you can see them spilling over the sides. Mix together the 1/4 cup of sugar, cornstarch, salt, and cold water, and cook until thick. Then add the remaining sugar and butter and cool. Add a few drops of red food coloring. Look in little plastic cans and bottles, and pour over the pie. Set in the refrigerator until ready to serve. Hope nobody dives in early and scoops some of that. Cover with whipped cream. This is very good and full of calories. I'm glad they added that part, because otherwise I wouldn't have known. And we had some good ones here. This is from 1939. Savory meat patties. We're changing from dessert. We're going to the entree here. Savory meat patties. 1 egg, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1 1/4 cups of milk, 1 cup of all bran. Do we still have all bran? We might. 1 pound of ground round steak, 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped onion, 1 tablespoon of chopped parsley, 10 slices of bacon. This is making savory meat pies, a recipe from 1939. Beat the egg and add salt, pepper, milk, and all bran. Can we get all bran? Combine meat with onion and parsley. Add the soaked bran and mix well. Form into cakes about 2 inches in diameter and 1 inch thick. Wrap a slice of bacon around each cake and fasten with a skewer. Bake in a hot oven, 450 degrees for 30 minutes, or broil for 20 minutes. Serve with Spanish sauce. That was the savory meat patty recipe. There was another one here from 1939 I thought we ought to do. Norway rarebit. 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 cups of milk, 2 teaspoons of mustard and salt, 1 can smoked Norwegian sardines, paprika, 1 pound of American cheese chopped fine. Melt butter in the top of a double boiler. Add flour and seasonings and blend well. Add milk and cook until slightly thickened. Add cheese and stir constantly until melted. Chop the sardines and add to the mix. Serve at once on hot buttered toast. Oh, what else do we have for recipes? I think that might be it. Let's go to our story about, and if you want the copies of those recipes for any reason, let me know. I'll send those to you. Shots fired over the Clam Flats. This was from North Haven, 1973. Amid unofficial reports that mainland clam diggers had been shot at, confusion reigned among local officials and diggers on the validity of a recently passed ordinance here, which bars non-resident diggers from clamming. Rockland clam digger Paul Norton charged Tuesday that there had been at least 6 instances of mainland diggers experiencing shots fired over their heads while digging. Norton said he had not been personally involved in any of the instances. He said that most of the shooting incidents had occurred in the Fox Island thoroughfare from the Vinyl Haven side, and that divides North Haven and Vinyl Haven. Sea and Shore Fisheries Warden told the Bangor Daily News on Tuesday night that he had a second-hand report of a single shooting, which had occurred about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and that while on patrol, another digger had told him that he had heard bullets flying over his head. The coastal warden said he'd been unable to substantiate any of the shooting reports. He said no one could provide any information as to where the shots came from or who fired them. He said that he had advised diggers that any such incidents reported would be investigated by constables, sheriff's deputies, and himself. Last week, North Haven residents voted to close a portion of its flats to non-residents in the name of conservation. Restricted, and they go on to list the area. They have to get a $50 local license. Vinyl Haven has a similar ordinance in the process. Dangerous times to be digging clams. Norton maintained that there were 30 to 35 clam diggers from the mainland recently working in North Haven and Vinyl Haven. He said that if they forced to leave North Haven, they would move over to Vinyl Haven. Pressure on those clams. The clam digger also took issue with the North Haven action as to closing the flats under the guise of conservation. True conservation, he said, meant that the flats need to be weeded out like a garden. He said that the flats at Southern Harbor were dug out last year, and the clams were back this year, thicker than ever. All right, we got to roll it back to 1898 here. While tearing down an old house, an Ellsworth man finds $785, translates to about $26,000 in today's dollars. For Ellsworth, Maine, July 12th, and this was 1898. While tearing down the old frame buildings which are being removed from the corner of State and Main Streets in Ellsworth to make way for a new bank building, Irving Skimmons, a laborer, found a roll of greenbacks amounting to $785 snugly tucked away between the ceiling of the store and the floor of the unused attic. Thus far, Mr. Skimmons has found no one to dispute his title to the money. The building in which it was found was built 60 years ago and has been occupied by many tenants and various kinds of businesses. The hiding of the money is generally attributed to one Henry Swan, who was an eccentric individual who kept a harness store in the building some 20 years ago. He has been dead many years and has no known relatives. He was known to have possessed considerable money at one time, but he died poor in a mental wreck. We'll do a little bit of a farm roundup stories. Mr. Fend of Herman, Maine, sold a pair of 3-year-old steers for $95 last week. H.J. Allen of Turner has a pair of oxen which girth 7 feet 11 inches around, and they weigh 4,400 pounds. I think that's got to be a 1,400, but whatever. Can't quite read it. It's from 1898. Walter Stephen of Presque Isle has 80 acres planted to potatoes, which are growing finely. The town assessors report 23,740 hens in Waldoboro. Poultry to the amount of $4,600 was sold in 1887. W.J. Pittman of North Freiburg has 8 acres of sweet corn, the rows of which are 100 rods in length. Can't you picture that, rows of corn? And W.C. Gray of Jay has a very prolific flock of sheep from 15 ewes. He has 27 nice, smart lambs. I don't know how they determined they were smart. I think that they mean appearance. A larger acreage of corn has been planted in Montville in vicinity than for some years. That's pretty factual. The correspondent out of Hebron, Maine says, apples and pears are not setting well on the trees owing to rainy weather while in bloom. What else do we have here? Isaac Woodard has a cow that he has a reason to be proud of. He weighed her milk for 7 successive days and found that it amounted to 257 pounds. And they sold the milk in pounds. Mrs. C.W. Moody of New Vineyard began to cut cucumbers from the vine on May 21st, and this vine encircles a window in her home like an ivy. This is window gardening in good earnest. It's a farm roundup from 1898. Riverview Farm in Damascotta, 14,000 ducks of all ages. They're just breaking the shell in age to those 10 weeks old, and they're ready for market. The farm is owned by Charles Norris, one of Damascotta's hustling citizens. Isaac Libby of South Berwick, last year he had 250 bushels of turnips of the Yellowstone variety. Among them were some very large ones. On Monday, he took from his cellar 3 of them that weighed 25, 24, and 16 pounds. What do you do with a turnip that size? You use it for heat or something. Willard Elwell of Waldoboro, he has a stark apple tree raised in 1846, which is in a good state of preservation. He had 10 apple trees destroyed by deer last fall. He has planted 300 plum, apple, and pear trees this year and now has over 2,000 trees. Isn't that exciting? General Manager Gerald, I don't know what this business is, he says the report attributed to him that the electric line to Bath would not be open until the state fair has no foundation at all. He states today that he will have the line to Sabattis in operation in 5 to 6 days. The line from Brunswick to Bath will be in operation within a week, from Lewiston to Lisbon within 10 days, and the whole through line will be in full operation as soon as the generators are received at Brunswick, which will be about the 20th of July. Everything is progressing finely, and he is sure that the whole line will be in successful operation within a few days. Pretty exciting to have all that electrical stuff going on and some of the towns still didn't have full electricity. Dr. Horn of Waterville has recently fallen heir to a small fortune, the amount of which is set to at almost any figure between $10,000 and $100,000. The doctor, who is said to be an equine dentist of no mean ability, seems to be worried by the vastness of his fortune and is making ducks and drakes of it speedily. So we're going to have a doctor that inherits some money, and this is how he spends it. He was now in Rockland as a summer visitor, where his first appearance was in, I can't quite read that, with a harpist and 2 fiddlers who made merry for the doctor. Next, he chartered an electric car and a band, and having gorgeously decorated the car, lavishly entertained a gay trolley party, stopping whenever so as to prompted to purchase refreshments. The cost of one trolley ride is estimated at $127. On one occasion, he and a friend rode about the streets, clad in straw hats and fur ulsters, wielding palm leaf fans and eating watermelon, with their feet resting on ice cake. So he's showing his extravagance based on his inheritance. On an excursion to Bangor, the doctor is reported to have amused himself by throwing the hats of his fellow passengers overboard, and on arriving at the wharf, he headed a fairly lengthy procession of men who went to the nearest furnishing store for new headgear. He bought them all new hats. Another side of his character is shown by the purchase, without asking the price, of a bicycle, which was presented to the astonished little lad who had been enviously eyeing it from the street. The doctor is quoted as saying he shall be glad when the money is gone, but 'tis probable that fair-weather friends will also be scarce when the fortune has been frittered away. Also from 1898, we have another story here about a ship being built. It was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, actually. The Japanese cruiser Kasagi left the harbor at 8:30 this morning for her speed trial over a 40-mile course from Boone Island to Cape Porpoise and return. The vessel was recently turned out by the cramps for the Japanese government. It's required to make 22.5 knots under a forced draught and 20 half knots under natural. The marks along the course were set in position a few days ago by the lighthouse tender Lilac and consist of 2 terminal buoys and 3 intermediate ones 5 miles apart. Edwin S. Cramp is on board of the Kasagi and is looking out for the interest of his firm. The new cruiser is 374 feet in length, 49 feet beam, and 17 feet 9 inches drawing, and her displacement is 4,900 tons. Isn't that exciting that they're building warships for Japan in 1898 here in the U.S.? And that one stayed in service till 1917, I think it was. From Prospect, Maine, the granite business at 2 mountains, Mount Waldo and Mosquito Mountain, is brisk. The building of the 2 large boarding houses makes work for many men, and it is reported that the Pierce family will build a large number of houses for rent. It is almost impossible to find a place to rent in town, and a number of houses are being built. Frankfort, Maine is booming with business. That hasn't changed much from today. What else do we have? We have a pretty short podcast today. Our last story here actually is an ad. It was from 1909 in the Lincoln County News. There are 2 ads. One was a kitchen girl and a chambermaid at Hotel Savoy wanted, and the owner is W.A. Davis. And then our capper ad was wanted a wife by a young man of good habits. He can make his own bed and do anything except eat old bread. Applicants, please send all communications to N.Y.Z, in the care of the Lincoln County News. I wonder how that young man made out with his quest for a wife. That's our podcast for today. I hope that you and your loved ones have a day that is full of grace, love, and kindness. Until next time, this is Downeast Mike saying we'll see you.
Everybody's getting seasick. Everybody gets seasick. Everybody gets seasick now. Seasick. Everybody's got a toll to pay, like you on a boat, but the deck begins to sway. Now be brave, get out there, get seasick, get seasick, get seasick. Everybody getting seasick. Everybody getting seasick. Everybody getting seasick now. Seasick. Put on some plaid, you'll be glad. Roll up your pants and kick this dance. It's easy to see and easy to do. Jump in now, it's all up to you. Oh, seasick, seasick, so dizzy. Everybody getting seasick. Everybody getting seasick. Everybody getting seasick now. Seasick.